In this video, I want to show you how to read HTML files from the internet and how to process them. Every page on the internet basically is an HTML page. You can see the HTML page behind every web page by clicking your right button on the mouse and going view page source or something similar in other browsers that are not Chrome. So this is the actual page. What you see here is Chrome's rendering of the actual HTML page. Let's look at the HTML page in a little bit more detail. It basically contains all the text that you have on the web page, and it also contains information about how to display that text. It also contains information about, for example, where to display which images, stuff like that. Let's look at just one example. So over here we have the link to Michelle's and my web pages. This link and this link. This is what they look like in HTML. So here you have ℏ and then the URL, the actual address of Michelle's web page. Then you have Michelle Craig, which is the text that's displayed when you see the link. If you hover the mouse over the text, over Michelle Craig, you'll see the address, the actual address at the bottom. Of course, if you click, then you'll go to Michelle's web page. So this is an example of what it looks like. Here, for example, you have TAs enclosed inside H2 tags. What that does is it displays TAs in this kind of big print. Like we saw during the workshop, you can actually use Python in order to retrieve the HTML content, the HTML file from the internet. So let me try to retrieve the C4M web page. I'll enter the address. Now, all this does is it reads in the HTML file, so all of this stuff, into a string from a specified address. And then it prints the page, which was read in using this line. So let me run this. Well, what you have is exactly the HTML text. Okay, and of course you can have page everything up to 100, for example. That would be the first 100 characters of the HTML file, so this stuff. Let's say that I want to accomplish something with the HTML file. Let's say that what I want to do is I want to get the first link on the web page. So in this case, it would be this link. Now, I need to observe something. What can I observe? Well, for example, I can observe that when you have a link, and it's a link to an external web page, it always starts with HTTP colon. So inside the string page, I can look for this substring, and that'll tell me the address of the link. And let's say that I just want to find the first one. So let me try to do this. So first I want to wrap this code in a function so that I don't have to repeat it every time. So let's say I want to call this function retrieve page, and it'll take URL as an argument. This stuff has to come first. And now what I'll do is I'll say f equals this, and now this won't be a specific address, this would just be URL. This stays the same, this stays the same, and now I don't want to print the page, I want to actually return it so that I can use it later on. So now let's define the address of the C4M web page here. So let's call it C4M URL, and let's define it like this. So C4M CDF Toronto edu, like so. So now I can say page equals retrieve page C4M URL. And now I can run this, and now again, page just contains everything here. Now, if I want to find the first link, like we said, I can actually just look for the first occurrence of HTTP. Okay, so let me do that. So I'll do it in the shell first. So I'll say page.find, and then I'll try to find HTTP like that, // Great. All right, so the first occurrence is 97. Okay, so let me try to see what's at page 97 up to, let's say, 140. Okay, it's this guy. So that's not the first link. What's the problem? Well, here you actually have this guy. So that's not really a link. That's just some information in the header about the format of the file. How to fix that? Well, I can say that I don't want to find the first HTTP. I want to find like the second one. So the one that comes after 97. So here I'll say page find HTTP, and then if you supply find with a second argument, that's like 100 for example, then it'll find the first occurrence of HTTP after index 100. Apparently it's 163. Let's try 163 up to, let's say, 180. Okay, that's not good either. So let's actually make sure this time that how many HTTPs we have. So we have 1, we have 2, we have 1, 2. So if we set it to 200, we'll be fine. Let's say, just to be safe, let's say 300. So the answer now is 1120. So this is a little bit hacky, but possibly good enough for our purposes. So this is going to be 1120 up to, let's say, 1140. Okay, that looks right. All right, so let's write a new function. Call it retrieve first link. And it'll take page as an argument. So the starting index, it's going to be page.find, and we're looking for HTTP. And we want to start at index 300. So that's assuming that the stuff here is not really, is not really interesting because it's not really part of the page. The actual text of the page starts around here. So, okay, and we said, okay, it's going to be approximately 300, possibly good enough. Now, what we need to do is we also need to find where the link ends. How to do that? Let's look at what links look like. So what you see is that links begin with HTTP and then they add with this string with a double quote, basically, and then a greater than. We can just say, okay, so let's look for double quote greater than. That would be good enough. So what should we look at? So we'll say that the end index, so we're looking at the end of the link, so that's going to be double quote, and we need to say / double quote in order to not just close the string, and then greater at. So that's what we're looking for, and we ought to start looking starting at starting index, right? Because what's the idea here? Well, the idea is that we start here, so we are at this h, and we need to look for the first occurrence of the double quote greater than that we see after this h. And the index of this h is exactly starting end. So that's exactly what we should do. So, okay. So that's the idea. So that would be the end index. And now in order to actually return the first link, we return page starting at start end and ending at end end. So now let's try to use this. So we set page equals, and now we can say retrieve first link of page, the page we got here, and let's try to print the result like so. Great, we got the output that we wanted.